Hi, welcome back to Food Travel Shopping Channel, and you're watching Restaurant Remake. Today I'll be using my brand new Staub 5.5qt La Cocotte in the La Mer color to make a French onion soup. So hopefully when I saute the onions, everything would fit, because there's going to be a lot of onions that we're going to use to make our French onion soup. If this is your first time watching with us here, don't forget to subscribe, so hit the subscribe button right now and hit the bell notification for our latest video and update. Also, feel free to check out my other video on the restaurant remake, as well as the unboxing of this particular piece. So let me show you how to do the French onion soup. Okay, these are the ingredients to make our French onion soups. So let's get started with our French onion soup. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're gonna go ahead and melt this first. I also coated my cocotte with some vegetable oil prior to putting in the butter. All right, so once we melt the butter, we're gonna add our onions in. All right, so I'm gonna put half of my onions in first. Okay, I'm gonna give a quick stir here so that I'm loosening up all the onions. I'm gonna add a little bit more onions now, once I bricked off some of those onions. All right, so hopefully we can fit it all in the pot here. We might need to cook some later once the onions is cooked down a little bit, and then we'll add some of them back in. All right, so this is the largest stove pot that I have here, so maybe it's time to get a larger one just to make French onion soup. All right, so, but I think it's fine right now. I just add the remaining onions in a little bit later once the onions start to be a little bit more tender first, because it will shrink, so that's okay. All right, so the French onion soup, is very important that we caramelize the onions. All right, so I'm gonna add the remaining onions in because it's starting to get soft, so I have a little bit more room here. So I'm just gonna put it all in. So I guess it all fits. The 5.5qt Staub La Cocotte, I was able to fit all 4 pounds of onions here. All right, so you want to continue to stir this every 3 to 4 minutes. Probably have to stir it a little bit more frequent. So I'm gonna show you in a little bit later how it looks like.
A few moments later.
Okay, so this is where I like to add my black pepper. Now some people add it at the end, but I like to see it with the onions, because then you know how much you have put into the onions here with the black pepper. So in terms of salts, I would save that at the end, okay? Because you don't want your soup to be too salty, especially you putting some beef broth in. And even though, you know, most of those package, if you buy low sodium, you still want to make sure you don't want to add the salts until at the end. But in terms of the seasoning for black pepper, I found it useful to just put it at this step, because like I said, you can definitely see how much black pepper you have with the onions. So the colors shows, so you have a nice contrast here. All right, so we're getting there. Keep stirring. All right, so you can see that the onion's starting to stick into the bottom of the pot a little bit, and that's okay, because we are going to eventually deglaze our onions. So you will start smelling a very rich flavor of these onions, because that's the idea of caramelizing the onions here. It just smells so good. And that's exactly the flavor that you want in your French onion soup. Okay, so as of this point, we're almost there, and I am now gonna add the minced garlic in, and we're gonna cook it for 2 minutes. Look at this very nice color of our caramelized onions. And now we put the garlic in. It really enhanced the flavor that it is being released here. All right, so after 2 minutes, we're gonna add our flour. And we're gonna stir this really well, and we're gonna cook this for 1 minute here. So the purpose of the flour is just really to thicken this up really good right now. And you wanna stir it in really well. So while we're cooking for this for 1 whole minute, make sure we're really gonna fold this in really well. Okay, you really gotta try this out at home. It smells so good. Can't wait to try this French onion soup. All right, so after a minute, we're now gonna deglaze our pot with white wine. Okay, so this is where you carefully scrape down your bottom of your pot. Okay, after we scrape down our pot here, now we're gonna add the Worcestershire sauce. All right, I'm gonna add in also the beef broth. So this is 6 cups of beef broth. Okay, give it a good stir. Okay, we're gonna add in our dried thyme here. So add in the dried thyme, add in your bay leaf. Okay, stir this. And then you wanna bring this back to a simmer. I'm gonna turn on my heat to high, and we're gonna bring this to a simmer. I'm gonna give it a quick stir. It started to simmer. All right, so I'm gonna cover the lid here. All right, let me just bring it back to a simmer stage first. All right, so right now it is in a simmering stage. I am now going to close my lid. And we're gonna lower the heat to a medium heat. And we're gonna let this cook for 10 minutes. So in the meantime, we're gonna prep for our baguette. All right, so I have half of a French baguette here. I'm gonna cut this into thick pieces here. So about 1 inch thick. And we're gonna go ahead and toast the French bread in the oven, and we're gonna put 1 French bread right into my bowl. So I'm making 2, so I'm just gonna do 2 pieces, but I'm also just gonna, while I'm doing this, I'm just gonna cut another 4 more pieces here. So this definitely, you can do the French onion soup, you can definitely serve it for, I would say, 6 people. All right, so if you don't want the end, you can cut that off. That's not a problem. You can save it for yourself and you can eat this piece later. All right, so we're gonna put these into the oven for 400 degrees. All right, so now we are going to put our French baguette into the oven for 400 degrees, and about 6 to 8 minutes, I'm gonna monitor and see we want a nice toasted color. Halfway through, I am going to flip it. Okay, halfway through, we are going to turn it around and then bake it for another 3 to 4 minutes. All right, so after toasting it, we can take it out. Let's check out our onion soup. Okay, definitely can smell a lot of flavor from the thyme. All right, so this is where you want to give it a good taste. At the same time, you're gonna remove the bay leaf. You can take that out. All right, so give it a good taste and see if it needs any seasoning like salt and pepper. All right, I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of salt here. And let's give it a good stir. All right, so I like to add, if I'm adding salt, I'm gonna add like half a teaspoon at a time and see if I need anything else. I'm gonna do a little bit more black pepper here. All right, I did add black pepper before when I was caramelizing the onions. A little bit more black pepper. pepper here. Okay, we're gonna another spoon. I'm gonna taste it again. So adding half a teaspoon of salt is just sufficient for me. Okay, I don't want too salty, but like I said, you can season it to your own taste. Now that's what's good cooking at home when you're making your French onion soup. A lot of times I found at the restaurant it's a bit too salty, and my wife doesn't take salt really well. Okay, so we're just gonna wait for our the French bread to be toasted, and then we're gonna be assembling our French onion soup. So in the meantime, I'm gonna just close the lid, and I'm gonna turn off the heat. Okay, so let's open our onion soup. So I let the onion soups cool off a little bit while we put the baguette into the oven. We are now going to put the soup into the bowl first. Alright, so I'm doing 2 soup here. So now I'm gonna place the toasted baguette in here. And I'm gonna pour some more of the onion soup in. All right, so I'm gonna leave some space on top. You don't want to fill them fully up on top because when we bake it, it might boil over. All right, so I'm gonna wipe everything down. All right, so I'm using provolone cheese to put it on top, and we're gonna bake it using the boiler. And you're gonna use the boiler and turn it on a high heat, and we just wanna melt the cheese and have some nice golden brown on top. Okay, so I suggest that we put it in a baking sheet or tray. So if there were any spillover, at least it won't be spilling all over in your oven. So the tray will catch everything. So just wiping the outside here. There was a couple of drip. All right, so let's transfer it over to the oven. All right, so the boiler has been preheated to 500 degrees. So I'm gonna put this in and we're gonna keep an eye on it. Okay, so approximately just 3 minutes later, it's already nice and golden brown. So let's take it out and see how it tastes. Okay, so now this is our taste test for our French onion soup. So let's give this a try. Oh, I just love the cheese. So provolone cheese is definitely have the cheesy effects of pulling it out. So that's the reason why I like to use provolone. Okay. All right, so don't want to be too messy. I'm gonna have the bowl in front of me, so. It's very good. I really like how it's not too salty. I love the cheese, melted really perfectly. And the flavor, the seasoning of the onion soup, you can really taste the thyme and just the taste of the onions. Really, you know, hints of the sweetness, the savoriness with the cheese. It's the best combination. Okay, so I'm gonna get a piece of bread here with it. Now, at the restaurant, there's a lot of like they use less onions, more broth. But here at home, I have a lot of onions, so which I really like. The bread just soaked up all the flavor of the soup. It's excellent. So I hope you enjoyed this episode on the French onion soup. So I'm very happy that I'm using my new La Cocotte, and this is the 5.5qt, 26 centimeter in La Mer color, my new favorite color. So also, like I said, kind of match it with this beautiful color. So if you agree that this is a beautiful color and you enjoy watching the soup, please give me a like at the bottom. Hit that like button right now. If this is your first time watching us, don't forget to subscribe to the Food Travel Shopping channel and also check out my other video on Restaurant Remake. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for our next video and update.